guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Deneen and this is Design by Deneen. A little while ago, I did my very first set of Christmas cone trees. The first set I did in white, and I loved them so much that I decided to do another and another. As of now, I have done 5 sets of cone trees. For every set of trees, I have done 3 styles. That's 15 different styles of DIY cone Christmas trees. Now you don't have to do yours in the same colors as I've done mine. You can do any style in any color you like. So when you're all done, don't forget to tell me which were your favorites and what colors and styles you'd like to see from me in the future. But before we start decorating, first we need to make up some perfect cone trees using poster board. So I have a video for that too. Let's do that now. We're going to start out with a piece of poster board and a piece of string, a small screwdriver, and a Sharpie. Next, you're going to attach one end of your string to the lower end of the screwdriver. Then you're going to measure off as much string as you want the height of your cone to be. So for example, I'm doing an 18-inch cone, so I'm measuring off 18 inches of string from the point where the screwdriver connects to the Sharpie. Insert the screwdriver end to the corner of the poster board, and then holding the string taut, draw your arc. Note that both sides are 18 inches, which is going to be the height of our cone. Then cut out your quarter circle. I'm using a cork pot holder as the base for my cone. This piece is optional. I'm using a 7-inch base for an 18-inch tall cone. Wrap your cone around the base until you get the correct size, and then tape it off with Scotch tape. Then, using a Sharpie, mark the spot on your cone where it needs to get folded to for the correct size for the base. Now re-roll your cone, keeping the top pointed and keeping the bottom edge even all the way around, and this will give you a perfect cone. Tape off both ends using Scotch tape. Glue the seam of the cone shut using hot glue. Just squish the glue inside and then press it down until it's dry. Apply glue into the inside lip of the bottom of the cone and then press the cone onto your base. And now you have a perfect cone. The base of the cone is optional. If you prefer to stack your cones, it would be best to omit the base. These cones make a great base for Christmas decor or for any other option where you need a cone. Thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing to my channel. So for this tree, I am using fur yarn. This is Red Heart brand fur, and this color is Polar. It also comes in a bunch of other colors. So this is pretty simple, really. The basic gist of this is hot glue and stick the fur on with hot glue. Just try not to burn your fingers, and start at the bottom and work your way up. And the only other thing is to remember to kind of scrunch it down so you don't have spaces where the cone shows through, and that's it. For this tree, I used rose petals, silk rose petals from the dollar store. These are in the wedding section. And I drew lines on the cone at 1-inch intervals just to make sure that I had a straight line to follow. I used about 1 full pack of the rose petals. And this is another one where it's pretty easy, just a matter of just apply hot glue along the line and then press on the petals. This is where my fake nails come in real handy because I don't get burnt when I'm pressing them on because I use the tips of my nails. So what I wanted to do with this one was to use like these sort of foamy roses, and I got these from Dollarama, $1.25 or $2 for like a little pack of like 9. So instead, I bought these little, they're like little wedding balls from the wedding section. So this is $3, and once you peel all the roses off the ball, there's like way more than you would get in the other pack. So this is like what's off of one rose. So that's enough to do about 1/3. So I bought 3 of them. Okay, so here they are all done, all together on display. I had a lot of fun doing these. I think the cones turned out really, really awesome, and I'm for sure going to do another batch of them closer to Christmas. To start, mark lines on your tree at 1-inch intervals. These are silver mini cupcake liners from the Dollar Tree. Take them in bunches and cut them in half. I used about 1 full package. Starting at the bottom of the tree along the back seam, glue them with the ruffled side down and the straight edge up. Glue them end to end until you get all the way around the tree. Then do a second row overlapping so that you don't see any of the silver from the bottom of the tree. Here's what the bottom first row should look like. For the next row, start at the same seam and just overlap the first row. This one only needs to be done as a single, not as a double like the first row. Continue until you're finished. For glue, you don't need a lot. You basically can just put a dot on either end and a little couple dots in the middle, and that's enough glue to hold these down. When you get to the top of the tree, you're just going to wrap these all the way around, and you're going to alternate until you get to the very top of the tree, and then you're done. This is a little stencil that I ordered off of Amazon. I'll leave the link below. It is painted with a base coat of silver metallic from Rust-Oleum. I'm using spray adhesive on the stencil and then just giving it a second to dry and then applying it to the tree. Once the stencil's in place, you're going to want to apply something to hold down the glitter. This one here that I'm using is actually a glitter paint, and it worked really well except for that it took quite a while to dry. You can also use Mod Podge or even just Elmer's white glue. So then we're going to take our silver glitter and we're going to sprinkle it onto the wet surface. It's a good idea to put either a piece of paper or paper towel underneath so that any over sprinkles won't go to waste. If you've got a good coat of glitter on there, you're going to want to just tap off the excess onto the sheet below, and then you're just going to peel it away before it's dry, and you're going to have a really beautiful finish. While you're waiting for the first section to dry, you're going to want to clean off your stencil. Give it a good wash. You can use a little bit of soap and water to get most of the glitter and the glue off. Blot it between a piece of paper towel, but don't leave it in there to dry or the remaining spray adhesive will actually stick to the paper towel and kind of make a mess. I speak from experience. Once one section is dry, you can move on to other areas. You don't have to worry too much about overlap because you're using a paintbrush. You're actually able to paint like right into the areas where you want your glue. And then you're just going to continue around as each area dries until you've gotten most of the cone done. When I got to the very top section of the cone, it was a little bit too narrow to wrap the stencil around. So what I did was I just freehanded the design on using a silver Sharpie. And where there were creases in the cardboard, I actually used those sort of as a guide to where to put my lines so that you wouldn't notice the creases, they'd be covered in glitter. For this portion, I used Elmer's white glue because it has a really good application nozzle. And then just add glitter as you did before. Once again, my tree is pre-painted and I've drawn lines. So this ribbon is from Walmart and it is really pretty and iridescent, and it's the same on both sides. For the first layer of ribbon, we're just laying it down flat and just gluing one piece all the way around the bottom so that you don't see any of the original cone. Next, lay out a portion of ribbon, but don't cut it off the spool, and just mark off 2-inch intervals using a Sharpie. You won't see these marks, it'll be covered up. Then you're going to pinch it off at the 2-inch marks where you've marked it with your Sharpie, and just give it a little small pinch so it gives it a bit of a ruffle. Starting on the back side, so we always start at the back seam and keep all the joins on the one side. So apply a line of glue along the line that you've drawn, and then really we're just going to press down the flat sections. Don't try to press out the pleats because it'll probably just mess things up. Press down all the flat sections, and then once it's dry, then you just want to bend the pleats over so that they're flat. When you get to the top section of the tree, you're just going to take a small piece of ribbon and fold it basically into a little cone. And then you're just going to top off your tree with it. This ribbon has amazing iridescence when the light hits it. And here here are my 3 silver trees all set up in my entranceway. And here I've mixed and matched them with my white trees, which I've done previously and I've linked above. I would really love to know which one was your favorite. Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for stopping by. I painted 2 of the cones with Rust-Oleum metallic spray paint, and for the third one I applied a gold metallic foil adhesive paper to it before rolling it. You don't have to do this part, you could just as easily spray all 3 of the trees in gold. On the bottoms of these ones I used gold dollar store paper plates and they work quite well. So I chose some ribbon from Dollarama and basically I just grabbed 2 that happened to have the same pattern, and it turned out that it worked out to be a pretty close match to the gold, which is excellent. I cut a piece that was just slightly longer than the height of the cone, and then I cut 8 more pieces the same. I marked the bottom of the plate off in halves, quarters, and eighths so that my ribbons would be evenly spaced. I started by gluing one end of the ribbon to the top of the cone without any extra overlap, and then pull the piece of ribbon taut and fold it under the bottom and glue it, hold it and glue it in place on the bottom. So then I decided that it was entirely too plain and it needed to be blinged up a little bit. This is bling on a roll, otherwise known as diamond wrap. And first thing I'm going to do is measure a piece that is the full, just slightly over the full length of the cone. And then take our scissors and we are going to cut them all into individual pieces. So we're going to need 8 pieces to go all the way around the cone in between the existing ribbon. And same as we did with the ribbon, we are going to start by attaching one end of the diamond wrap to the very top of the cone and then pulling it taut and affixing it underneath the cone on the plate. Repeat this step until we have a row of diamond wrap in between every row of ribbon all the way around the cone. For the bottom of the cone, I used adhesive rhinestones, and the reason that I did this instead of just using a single row of diamond wrap is because it would lump up over top of the diamond wrap. So I just stuck down the rhinestones in between the diamond wrap, so from one to the next over top of the ribbon, and then broke it off. So after doing more than a few of these cone trees, I have come up with a much better way of adding lines, since most of my cone trees require lines be added before adding any kind of finish. So I started by marking lines at 1-inch increments up the seam of the tree. And then what you want to do is you want to grab your Sharpie and place it at the 1-inch mark, and don't move your hand, and then just rotate the tree around gently. Once the lines get higher than you can comfortably hold your hand, I just added something to rest my hand on. In this case, it's just a Dollar Tree gift box, and continue the process until complete. The beads that I used for this tree are from Dollar Tree, and you can find them in the party section, and they come in lots of colors, and I have used them in gold. So this tree has lines marked at 1-inch intervals, and then along those lines I've marked off at the 2-inch marks all the way around so that I can keep my swags nice and even. So just add a drop of glue at all the 2-inch marks and then attach the beads, keeping the swags nice and even all the way around the bottom level of the cone tree. Alternate the swags so that it creates like an opening in between the beads, and continue doing this all the way up the tree. It gets a bit harder to do as you get further up, but if it doesn't continue all the way up, it's fine, it'll still work out. Again, I decided it wasn't blingy enough for my liking, so I added some rhinestone gems. These are just assorted size gems from Dollar Tree, and I've used the larger ones on the bottom section of the tree for the first 3 or so rows, and then I used the smaller ones the rest of the way up. The top of my tree got a tiny bit munched while I was making it, so to finish off the top, what I ended up doing was I got 2 of the larger rhinestones and I applied them to kind of front and back and stuck them together to make a bit of a star for the top of the tree. But because I like to provide you guys with options, here is some bling wrap that I picked up from Dollarama, and it's shaped like little flowers with diamonds in the middle. So I peeled off one of those and cut the little pieces of string off of it, and I'm going to use this as the star on the top of my tree. Well, this one got even blingier than I intended it to be, and it's got a little bit of weight to it. So here it is in all its glory. Like the previous tree, this one starts with some lines being drawn around the circumference of the tree. These lines are at the 2-inch mark, so they're 2 inches apart, and I did this on the 18-inch tree, which means there are 9 sections. And then I took some ribbon, gold ribbon, and I just wrapped it around the tree at the 2-inch mark lines. I didn't glue it all the way around, I just tacked it on a couple of spots. So this is tube confetti, which I didn't even know existed until recently, but it was pretty sparkly and I picked it up at Dollar Tree. So we're going to use Mod Podge to attach this, and the one thing that you want to pay attention to when you're doing this is you don't want to get your Mod Podge all over your ribbon. You want to keep your ribbon clean. So when you're applying the Mod Podge, you're going to just get it on your brush and you're going to sort of tap your brush up against the ribbon so that it doesn't actually get on the ribbon, it just goes up to the edge of the ribbon, just like this. Once a section is coated in Mod Podge, and you want to coat it pretty well, you don't want it drippy, but you want it pretty well coated, then you're going to just take your tube confetti, and I've put it in a paper plate here, and you're just going to dump it on top, and then once you've got a really good layer of it dumped on, you're kind of going to pat it down a little bit and continue all the way around until that whole section is covered in tube confetti. And it's best to let each section dry before you go working on the next section, because there's a really good risk that you're going to smudge it around. On the lower and larger sections of the cone, I dumped the tube confetti out of the plate and just put it on a piece of paper with a nice crease in it so I can dump it back out when I'm done. And then this time you're just going to roll your cone, and I actually did 2 sections at once when I got to the bottom. So basically you're just going to roll your cone into the tube confetti and tamp it down and then just let it dry. And here is our confetti tree all done. I suggest that you actually add another additional layer of Mod Podge on top of the tube confetti to keep it in place. Thank you so much for joining me for this latest round of mini trees or Christmas cone trees. This next set of trees I did in pink, and I actually originally did them for Valentine's Day, but there's no reason you can't change up the color of the crepe paper and also do them for Christmas. I've done all 3 trees with a 14-inch high cone tree with a 5.5-inch wide base. All the trees have been painted with a base coat of pink acrylic craft paint. For this tree, we're using Dollar Tree crepe paper. For the bottom row, cut a piece of crepe paper wider than the base of the tree. Attach it using hot glue and pull it tight around the bottom of the tree. It's all the way around the bottom and covers the pink cardboard. For the next row, cut a piece of crepe paper and stretch one long edge all the way along. Attach it above the previous row about halfway, adhering it with hot glue. It'll give a slightly ruffled effect. And here's a completed first row. Continue with successive rows until you get to the top of the tree. This is a super easy project, one that you could do with your kids or your grandkids. And you don't have to do this one just for Valentine's Day. You could do this for another holiday and just change up the color of the crepe paper. When you get to the final row, just take a small piece of crepe paper and wrap it around the top in a cone shape. For this cone tree, we're using Dollar Tree pink silk petals. Take one of the petals and lay it flat on your work surface. Glue one of the pointed edges with hot glue and fold the petal over onto itself, making sure that it sticks well. Try not to burn yourself. It might be advisable to use a craft stick. And it should look like this. Rinse and repeat until you have a bunch. Draw some guidelines in pencil around the circumference of the cone. Glue the petals down using hot glue. You just need to apply a little bit of glue at the top. Make sure that you've got them all facing in the same direction, and make sure that you check the direction before you put the glue on. Continue until you've gotten all the way around the first row. When you get to the last spot, tuck your petal in behind the previous petal so you can't see where you started. And here's what the first completed row looks like. Continue adding rows and overlapping until you're complete to the top of the tree. And here it is, partially completed. When you're done, check over the tree to see if you have any spaces that need filling. And then just insert a petal wherever you need to fill in. For the next cone tree, we're going to use more of the crepe paper that we used in the first project. We're going to need a lot of little squares. In order to do this, unroll a long length of crepe paper and fold it over and back on itself several times until you've got a lot of thicknesses. Then we're going to cut off one end to get rid of all the folds. because we want our pieces to be square, we're going to use a piece of the crepe paper and lay it across to make sure we're cutting it as wide as it is long, and use this as our template for cutting. And again, we're going to need a bunch, so cut up a bunch in advance before you start. I used Mod Podge to attach the pieces to the cone. Take the squares and fold them over the end of a pencil eraser. You might remember similar projects like this from when you were in school. Nothing wrong with keeping it simple and maybe a little bit old school. Then you're going to attach the crepe puffs onto the cone tree with Mod Podge. Originally, I applied the Mod Podge directly to the exterior of the cone tree and then just pressed on the crepe puffs. But after doing a little bit more of the tree, I decided it was more efficient to just put some Mod Podge onto a plate. This is just a disposable Dollar Tree plate. And then just dip them into the Mod Podge before adhering them to the outside of the tree. Here it is with a few rows completed. You won't need to worry about guidelines for this project. Just keep adding the crepe puffs as you go. So if you watched my How to Make a Perfect Cone video, you'll note that I usually put a bottom in my cones. And for this one, I've put them in, but I haven't glued them in, so I'm going to remove them while I'm working on the cones and then add them back in after. Funny story, I originally painted this cone with a coat of flat black spray paint, and then I used a metallic acrylic paint, and then after I was all done, I decided that I preferred the metallic turquoise Rust-Oleum spray paint that I have, and I used that and painted over top. This paint is almost like automotive paint. This is a technique that I first used in a thrift flip video, which I'm going to link above and in the description box. And what it entails is using metallic silver nail polish and just getting it dripping out of the bottle, and then you just do sort of a flick back and forth, and it gives you a really cool sort of an abstract linear effect. The second cone I've done in purple, and I started out with a coat of Perfect Purple from Folk Art Paints. Next, I added a coat of this really cool color shift paint, which is a mix of purple and a gold tone, and is also from Folk Art. I'm using an oval chalk painting brush to apply the paint. These craft mirrors I picked up at Michael's. They're in 3 different sizes, and I'll link to some below in case you can't find these ones at Michael's. I just attached them to the tree in kind of a random order using hot glue and keeping some of the larger ones at the bottom of the cone tree and some of the smaller ones towards the top. For tree number 3, I started out with a coat of flat black spray paint, using Folk Art Metallic Sapphire paint, which is my new favorite blue paint. I'm using an oval blending chalk paint brush to put the paint on. I found this works best. Also, I found that the paint goes on a little bit better if you add just the tiniest bit of water. Basically, all I did was wet the brush and then wring it out, and that was enough water to help the paint spread properly. Also note that I've got my bottom section tucked in here, which is just a little Dollar Tree plastic round plate. And to decorate, I am using Dollar Tree silver picks. I attached these using hot glue, and I glued them in 3 spots, not at the very top and not at the very bottom. So as you can see here, I'm just gluing a glob here, here, and there. And that way we can still hold on to the tops and the bottoms and not get glue everywhere. Really importantly, you want to line these up to the bottom of the cone, and that'll keep it even all the way around. So just keep gluing these little picks on one at a time until you've worked your way all the way around the cone. When you get to the last section on the bottom of your cone, you may have to adjust the picks just a little bit to make sure that you don't have a gap. After the bottom was complete, I did the top of the cone tree. I placed one pick and then I did a second one on the opposite side of the cone tree, and then I went and did the other 2 sides to make sure that they were all even. So I've got 4 picks on the top of the tree. For the second row, I just placed the picks alternating and staggered down between the 4 top ones. And to finish it off, I added a 3rd row with the picks staggered between the picks from the 2nd row. So here are my non-traditional colored blue and purple toned DIY Christmas cone trees. This one's for all of you out there that love those aluminum Christmas trees on the Christmas tree lot in the Charlie Brown Christmas movie, like me.